When I got into NFTs, like I noticed everybody's looking at their NFTs like on flat device screens, right? You scroll through your phone, you look at them on your computer, your iPad, whatever. And to me, that seems very limiting. Like, I don't think we're going to settle much longer for that. I think we're gonna grow intolerant to just looking at NFTs on a flat device screen at some point. And this is why, like I kind of sound like the, that crazy prophet that's like saying the world is ending, blah blah blah. But I truly believe that that's the next leap forward that the space is going to take. So it was instant for me because I knew, like even early last year, that this was a limitation and that holograms are going to be a need.
Welcome back to Cool Hand Crypto, where cinema, culture, and crypto collide. My name is Matt Silverman, and please remember to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. I love talking with artists. It's my favorite type of conversation because I understand the inescapable urge to create. We don't always know why we're doing it or what we're doing or when it will stop, but like an itch you can't scratch, it's there. I have never met today's guest, but she is clearly one of these people, a highly prolific sculptor, curator, hologram collage artist whose work has received grants from the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation, Andy Warhol Foundation, Andrew Mellon Foundation, Joan Mitchell Foundation, with previous exhibitions at the Whitney Museum of Art Basel, Miami Beach, Basel, and more. If you're at a computer, just go to her website, sculpturings.com. I'll list the link in the description for the full 360 audio visual experience. Rebeccarose, welcome to the show.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me, Matt.
So this is going to be exciting. I went to your website. There is so much art there, so much to talk about. We'll obviously focus the conversation mostly on NFTs and this new space. But let's start just maybe with a brief. I like to know how different people got to NFTs. Where are they coming from and sort of their journey into NFTs? So I know you have a very long history of art at Disney and at all sorts of places, sculpting and everything. So why don't you give us sort of the nutshell version of it?
All right. So it might be a rather big nut, like a coconut compared to a peanut shell, but all right. So I'll start with this. My entry to NFTs began with a rat-infested house, and I'll get back to that.
Okay, right, I like it. I like this lead. There we go.
Rewinding. So yes, I've been doing digital collage since the late 90s. Before that, I was doing analog collage with scissors and paper and glue and all that in the mid 90s. I'm really dating myself here, but that just means I have a lot of experience. And then I started doing sculptural collage in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I did that practice for about 18 years. Found some success showing my sculptural collage all over the world. And one thing about my sculptural collage is that it's wearable. So you really need to be in person with the piece to try it on to see how it works with your body. And about 7 years ago, in 2015, I realized, oh my gosh, there's a huge disconnect there. Because there were, prospective collectors in Asia who, were curious about buying a piece, but they wanted to try it on first. And, I had reservations about sending them, works that are cast in precious metals like gold or sterling silver halfway across the globe with the hope that they would either purchase it or trust them to send it back without buying it. So that was a huge problem. And so I thought of a way back in 2015. I'm like, well, maybe I can recreate a virtual trying on experience. And I would send them like a small holographic pyramid, which is like a transparent four-sided, it could be made out of glass or plastic or acrylic. And I would then create like a quad split holographic format MP4, like video file of the ring, of the sculptural collage. So it would be configured in like a north, south, east, west pattern. That way I would send them the small pyramid, I would send them the file, and then they could just, play the file of the piece like on their iPad, put it on top of the pyramid, and then have it appear as a hologram in their physical space, and then just shove their hand up inside the pyramid to see the ring projected on their hand as a hologram. That way it would inform them about, whether or not they would want to buy it. So I was doing that for about 7 years. And let's see, going back to the rats. All right. So while I was doing my sculptural practice, I was also working for Disney as a Walt Disney artist for 18 years. And then COVID hit, and they slashed the budget on all the departments, and of course our whole department got axed. So I lost my job when COVID hit, and I started to really rethink my practice, my art practice. And so I started to sell off my sculptural equipment, unfortunately, and then I started to, dive headfirst into the digital work again. So it started with last January. All right, this is where the rats come in. Those feral,
I feel like I need to get popcorn right
rodents.
now.
Well, I don't know. It might be too gross. You might throw up.
It was a dark and stormy night, and my house was full of rats.
Oh, but it was. So we had heard the scurrying in our roof, and we're like, what are those, squirrels? Because we see lots of squirrels back in our backyard. And lo and behold, we had somebody come out, and they're like, oh, you have a rat infestation in your roof. And we're like, what? So, of course, I couldn't stay in the house. So,
of course.
Because it took 3.5 months for them to, seal up the holes in the house, and then, exterminate all the rats out and make sure they didn't return. So during that time, early last year, I actually lived with my in-laws, who were gracious enough to welcome their home to us. And when you stay at somebody else's house, you're welcome and you're comfortable, but you're not 100% comfortable. So I kind of tended to myself, and I didn't want to impose. So I was in a corner, in the house, for the full 3 months. And it was in January where I really started to, learn about NFTs, even though I had heard the term NFT a couple years prior. And I remember reading an article, but I didn't let it sink in. So now that I had time and kind of solitude, right? No distractions that I'm used to having at our house because I was somewhere else. I really had the time and the focus to just dive into what NFTs are, what they do, how they're going to change the world. And I was like, wait a second, I've been making digital art for so long. I've been doing NFTs without putting them on the blockchain. So I started... I started minting in early March, and from there I've been, minting on Foundation and on Origin. I curate for Maker's Place. I also mint on Opensea and SuperRare, which I'm super excited about, and Solana now. I'm a 2021 Solana NFT OG artist.
Amazing. Well, first of all, your pyramid idea for the jewelry is incredibly clever, right? Did anyone steal your pyramid?
Those pyramids were on the lesser expensive side of things, so they could just keep them.
Great idea. I love that. And you have to go to the website and check out these. I saw a bunch of rings that were just like little movie scenes. They looked like little movie scenes on top of a ring. Incredible.
Thank you.
With the NFTs, one of the things I'm trying to do with this show, and it's a struggle because I'm sort of immersed in it and you're immersed in it, and I'm talking with everyone who is immersed in it. But a lot of my listeners, they find the conversation hard to follow. So what I'd like to do maybe is, can you break down some of the different platforms that you just described, OpenSea and SuperRare, and what are these different things that you're involved in? What do they do, and how do they help artists?
So SuperRare is a one-of-one NFT platform, meaning that the artists are expected to only mint one edition of each work. compared to like, KnownOrigin or Foundation or Opensea, where you can mint multiple editions. SuperRare focuses on just one of one works, which is why they're called SuperRare. There's just one. There's the scarcity level that already or scarcity level layer that's already on there. So, and SuperRare, of course, has a very highly curated team that seeks out only the best artists. Like, they won't just allow anybody to mint there. So it's kind of like a niche, almost like the Gagosian version of like an art gallery. You know what I mean? Very blue chip. KnownOrigin is also blue chip as well. They have a curated platform. They do allow editions as well as one-of-one works. They just announced doing composable NFTs, where you can actually mint an NFT inside of another NFT. And kind of embed one NFT into another, which is great.
Explain that.
Because
is that 2 NFTs?
Yeah, it is. It is. Isn't that crazy? So, for those that don't, for the listeners that don't really know a lot about like NFTs or what's called unlockables, there are some platforms that allow like unlockable content to be paired with an NFT. And that unlockable content is usually stored off chain, like either in a Dropbox or in a Google Drive, which the creator then always has to make sure that they keep valid for the perpetuity of the NFT it's paired with. And things happen. Dropbox links get corrupted, or G drives get deleted. You know what I mean? So like having that unlockable content off chain for me was kind of like oh really, like, so now that KnownOrigin is allowing NFTs to be embedded inside other NFTs, it removes that that necessity to always have like an unlockable. Like, you could just have that NFT like always paired with the other NFT in perpetuity without the creator, having the responsibility of making sure the Dropbox links work and the G Drive links continue to work, which is a huge relief, actually. Foundation is another curated. Well, actually, Foundation is not curated. Foundation is invite only. So you'll have to know an artist that is currently on the Foundation platform who has sold work, and will have invites available, because you don't get any invites to invite other people to join the platform until you sell a work yourself. And then Opensea is kind of like everybody's game. So it's like a giant marketplace that aggregates all of the API from multiple platforms like SuperRare, Maker's Place, KnownOrigin, Rareable, everywhere. And then it aggregates it into Opensea, where you could then buy and sell on secondary, as well as minting works primarily on the primary market of Opensea as well. And that is not curated. Anybody who wants to get in the game can definitely go to Opensea and start minting.
Are you listing on all of these sites your art, and then you're also curating on some of these sites?
Yes. So I have, oh goodness, I've minted on 6 different platforms across 2 chains, across Ethereum, across 3 chains now, across Ethereum, Tezos, and Solana. But I curate for Maker's Place, and I don't mint there because I don't want there to be like any sort of funny business. Like, that's kind of like separate.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I don't want it to look like, oh well, she curated herself onto the platform. That's not the case.
Right.
So yeah.
Do you know how many curators they have? Is there like, how does that process work as far as submitting artists that you're interested in and things like that?
It's kind of it's a growing team. Of course, the platform started off with, just a handful, and then, they added another handful and another handful. So we've got like 3 little handfuls worth. But the way I approach curation for Maker's Place is because I have like an art career that spanned like 2 decades before NFTs. Like, I've met a lot of artists, and I have a lot of artists in my network, and I've been trying to onboard them into NFTs, and a lot of them produce exquisite works. and have shown at phenomenal galleries and museums. And I've had the honor of like showing with them in some group exhibitions. And I approach my curation to the platform through that history, like knowing that they're established artists, that they have dedicated so much time to their art practice, and that are at the level and aptitude that they've reached, that others strive to attain.
You're like a virtual globetrotter across these different blockchains and platforms. And is there anything you're seeing for someone just getting started as far as which ones are maybe easier to use, or which is still figuring out, or which has the most promise, or just general insight that someone who's experienced so many different types of NFT marketplaces and platforms, insight that you would have that someone just starting out wouldn't?
So for someone just starting out, the thing to always hold on to is things move fast and things always change. So when you from the time that you get into your head that you want to consider doing NFTs to the time that it takes to research it and really learn about the ecosystem and how everything functions, things change. So you have to pound the pavement and really dig in and do the work, and not just be like, oh, I'll think about it later. Like you have to commit, and you have to adapt to how things change, because ever since, KnownOrigin has had 3 versions of their contract out since they started in 2018, I think. Same with SuperRare. I think they've had about 3, maybe 4 versions of their contract as well. And things change. Like there are going to be times where you are minting on one platform and you find that it maybe doesn't suit your needs or your style. Perhaps maybe if you're minting on Opensea, which I love Opensea, it's fantastic for so many things. But if you're an artist that doesn't want to get lost in the wide open sea of art, maybe
Right.
that's going to be a struggle for you.
Well done.
Maybe that's going to be a struggle. So like getting onto some other like not smaller, but curated platforms will help, because they do tend to push, marketing of the artists on their roster a little bit better. Like they have emails and my gosh, I think like 3 or 4 emails a week. The platforms will highlight artists and try to get the word out there to collectors to purchase their works.
Can you tell us what you mean when you say there's different versions of the contract being released?
Yeah. So when I started minting on KnownOrigin, they were on version 2. And this summer, they rolled out version 3, which was an improvement because they were able to code it so that it lowered the gas fee. And it actually combined like the minting and the listing gas fees together. So, and then there were, of course they had, beta testers, and even right now, like there are some third party, not apps, but, third party showcases, we'll say, that don't properly aggregate those V3 KnownOrigin works because they're on a different contract. So, you might have an Opensea profile and be minting on KnownOrigin and only see, some of them come up as pictures, and then some will come up as the KnownOrigin logo because of that version, that contract change. And then, one thing I forgot to say is, if you're an artist that's just starting out, think about your budget. Think about how much you're able to spend, because different platforms do charge different rates. Like they all pretty much have the same commission fee. Like 15% is general. But with the exception of Opensea, I think theirs is 2.5. But the foundation charges 3 times. They charge once for minting the work, once for listing the work, and once for settling a sale. And that's unique because when you mint the work, the minted piece is shown up on your profile and it's in your wallet. When you list the work, it actually gets sent to Foundation's escrow wallet, which is like a custodial wallet, right, for Foundation. And then when somebody buys the work, you then have to settle it with you have to settle the sale through the escrow. And that gets charged. You get charged 3 times because of it, because you're interacting with the contract 3 different times. So, and that gets pricey. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind with your budget, what you're able and willing to spend.
Are you referring to people buying NFTs or people listing NFTs?
Listing, like if you're an artist that's wanting to list.
So let's talk about your hologram art. When I think of hologram, before I looked over your work, I think of the film kind of hologram, which I don't know if you also do, but that's the kind I would receive maybe in baseball cards or something, where you'd go like this and see the little person move around. I believe your holograms are a bit different, right?
They are. I think what you're referring to is kind of like a lenticular, almost holographic. It's like a film, right? That has like an iridescence,
Right.
kind of a rainbow shimmer. Yeah. So that is one version. So the holograms that I do, which are single plane, quad split plane, and also anamorphically distorted cylindrical holograms. And I'll explain what each of those mean because it sounds a little Star Trek-y. So it actually has its roots in what's called the Pepper's Ghost. Have you ever heard of the Pepper's Ghost?
No, I don't think so. No, tell us about the pepper. I feel like this whole conversation is like a campfire story. But yes. Tell us about the ghost.
Golden arm?
First there were rats, then there were ghosts.
Right. You'd think that I live in an abandoned.
I'm looking forward to the zombies and the vampires. Yes.
So, the Pepper's Ghost is actually an illusion that originated in the late 1800s. It's been around that long, and it pretty much uses like a pane of glass at a 45-degree angle that has an illuminated subject that kind of reflects the light beams off of that angled plane in a way that your eye reads it as like a ghost or as something that's not there. And so, but that's just like a single one-sided plane. Like Tupac, the Tupac concert, that hologram, like the Tupac hologram concert.
I was there. I was at Coachella for that. Yeah.
You were? Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's
I was doing photography. Yeah, it was wild.
That's well, you saw a single plane Pepper's Ghost hologram. That was
Tupac.
Me
and Tupac went to hang out after. Me and the hologram went to go get some drinks after. It was really nice.
So with that's so amazing. Oh my God, I love that you did that. So with a single plane hologram, you have the subject, whether in this case it's Tupac, and then the dancers in front or behind the glass to give that illusion of depth that they're interacting with him actually being there, quote unquote. So but with a single plane, you only get to see that illusion from one side. With a pyramid, you can see it front, side, back. So if you have the pyramid with a quad split holographic format NFT in that north, south, east, west configuration, you'll be able to like do a 360 around that pyramid and see the hologram in like front, side, back, which is really cool. And then, but I mean, even with pyramids, right? Like you have corners, you have hard corners, geometrically speaking. So if we remove the hard corners and insert a transparent cylindrical shape, that like gives you you're able to like see it 360 in the round. But the NFT source, like the image source from above that is helping to create the hologram, has to change as well. You can't just have a north, south, east, west quad split holographic format NFT and then put a cylindrical on it and think it's going to work. So in order for it to work with a cylinder, you have to take a single image and anamorphically distort it like this. Like kind of like in a like one side is really wide and one side and the other end is really narrow in kind of a curving way. So that way it the curvature of that anamorphically distorted image, it actually pairs with the circumference of the transparent cylinder that you're pairing it with. Ah, what a mouthful.
Yes, amazing. I know everyone. You can go get a glass of water before we continue. I know it's. I feel like it's. I want to get into sort of more of the mechanics of what you're talking about, because I've been to your website, I've seen the circles, and I've seen the different thing, and I want to know more about that. But my first question is, when you were before NFTs, when you were already sort of involved in this space and doing holograms, was it an instant connection? Like, of course, I need to make these real world holograms, NFTs. Or is that something I feel like if I were doing that, I would have to be like, how do I take a 3D real world object, a hologram, and make that something for the internet? And it would take me a minute to figure that out, but maybe it was instant for you. How did you make that connection?
It was instant for me because with the way that we, even early on when I got into NFTs, like I noticed everybody's looking at their NFTs like on flat device screens, right? You scroll through your phone, you look at them on your computer, your iPad, whatever. And to me, that seems very limiting. Like, I don't think we're going to settle much longer for that. I think we're going
I agree.
we're going to grow intolerant to just looking at NFTs on a flat device screen at some point.
Right.
And this is why, like I kind of sound like that crazy prophet that's like saying the world is ending, blah, blah, blah. But I truly believe that that's the next leap forward that the space is going to take, because we're going to only tolerate that for so long. So it was instant for me because I knew, like even early last year, that this was a limitation and that holograms are going to be a need. So I was like, well, shit, that's what I've been doing. Like I've been, doing holograms, for so long already. Like this is what's going to be needed. So yeah, it was pretty instant. And even still, like when I talk about holograms and NFTs as holograms at conferences like NFT NYC I spoke at and NFT Basel, like I'm still trying to preach it and get the word out there that this is on the horizon. Because when we talk about, of course, us, the physical, going into the metaverse, the digital, like that digi-fizzy crossover, it's a two-way road. It's a two-way road. We've got to bring the digital into our physical in new and innovative ways that go beyond our flat screens. And I think holograms are going to do it.
So when you go to your website, you see basically a bunch of almost like polka dots, and they're circles, and they have different like graphics in them and whatnot. So if I were to buy one of those or mint one of those today, how do I use it? What do I do? How does it work?
I'm so glad you asked. So those quad split holographic format NFTs, like with the polka dots, like you said, those polka dots are the digital collage. So there are my roots there too. But with each of those quad split NFT formats or format NFTs, it actually comes with a small pyramid. So you get the physical when you purchase one, and that gets sent to you. That way you can, put your phone on top of the pyramid and actually see the hologram in your house. Yeah. And there are some holographic NFTs that I've done that are single plane, like the ones on SuperRare. Those are optimized for a Portal hologram unit. Have you heard of Portal?
I believe I have heard of Portal, but I don't know much about them. Tell us about them.
So right now, a Portal holographic unit is a 7 foot tall, maybe like 3 foot deep, like telephone box looking, structure that a hologram appears in. It's a single plane hologram, very much like the Tupac show. And it has, it's supposed to simulate like somebody's really inside that box, right? And you can have conference calls and two-way communication and whatnot. But they are, and this is not alpha, even though it was on their website, but then they took it off, and I've had some meetings with them. It's not alpha, but they are coming out with a tabletop version of this hologram unit, which means that Or yeah, like, which means that you can put your NFTs, as long as they're optimized for it, you can put your NFTs in this tabletop hologram portal unit and see your NFT as a hologram. And it won't cost 60,000 like the 7-foot tall ones.
I want to know more about sort of you and your art. So we've been talking a lot about sort of the mechanics of how NFTs work, but can you describe what the content of your art is, and if there's a theme that sort of unites all of your art?
Yeah, so I'm a big sci-fi nerd. Of course, my love of holograms stems back to like Star Wars and Star Trek and all about that. If I don't see a holodeck like before I die, it'll be my biggest regret in life. Like, I want to step into a holodeck. So obviously, like, there's a sci-fi spin to a lot of the digital collage that I do, and I tend to focus on like not just like what other planets would be like, but mostly like how weird they're gonna be and how unabashed they are in their weirdness. And so I really focus on the strange and unusual, not to sound like Delia from Beetlejuice, but like I really focus on things that are whimsical and funny and zany and yeah, just weird. I'm a weird person and I think in weird ways. So that definitely comes through my art. But then there's also this like retro flavor to it, because I use a lot of the collage work that I do uses a lot of references like from visions of the past, like really, really old advertisements or really, really old, just weird things that I find that are old. And then I kind of like kit bash them together and mash them up to kind of compose these interesting scenes. And it's funny that you mentioned, is there like a universe building kind of with it? And it's starting to go that route. Like my collection, Mid-Century Manifesto, was the start of it. So that was minted in 2021. And then in 2022, I've started Aeon Manifesto, which is I have just a few pieces that are minted, but I have some that are still works in progresses. And they each kind of have a similar approach in that it's sci-fi and retro and weird and zany and crazy and it's colorful hues and whatever. But there's also like an underlying storyline where they're all connected with different planets and different quadrants and different regions and species, that you kind of encounter. So like the idea is that you as the viewer or the collector is actually being beamed into this universe, and then you get to see all of these things happen and get to meet all of these species interact with each other.
Very cool. Obviously, people will go to the website and check out all of your work, but what is listed right now? Can you describe certain NFTs that are listed right now that people could buy today if they wanted to?
Sure. There is a very large single plane hologram on SuperRare that's listed at, actually that one's accepting offers. I'm taking offers on that one. So don't lowball me, guys. No, I'm kidding. And then on KnownOrigin, there are the quad split holographic NFTs. And there are two different collections with that. The Mid-Century Manifesto, like I said earlier, and the Let's Live Together collection, which is oddly enough quad split holographic NFTs of me, yours truly, doing weird things. The idea behind that is that I become a hologram in your living space, because it's, a lot of collectors, all the collectors live with art, but very few of them can say that they've lived with the artist. So I'm like,
right.
Like, why not, make myself, an artist, be
By the
able
end of the
to
year, you'll be in
live.
households around the country.
How creepy. And I like that. I like that like voyeuristic kind of
She'll be watching you. There'll be rats. There'll be ghosts.
Oh my God. Prepare your funerary property now.
You know what you need to do? You need to embed like an audio track of you saying, Alexa, play music. And that way the hologram of you is just like in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. telling Alexa to play to play some haunting music or something.
Oh, I kind of dig that. Yeah. Like soft sounds of wolves attacking or yeah. That's a good idea.
Clearly your new mission statement would be to scare all of the people purchasing your art.
I want to be able, I want my art to evoke that, like, chicken skin feeling. So it's kind of interesting to have like an artist, living in your space, living together. So that's one of the collections on KnownOrigin. And then on Foundation, there are some painted holograms, which are in the quad split holographic format as well. I painted on records for many, many years. And I'm in Slash from Guns N' Roses has one of my records, my painted records.
Awesome.
Whoever the bassist is for REO Speedwagon, I can't remember his name, but yeah. So like I painted on records for a long time too. And that collection is like the digitized animated versions of my paintings. And then on Opensea, because I totally understand not everybody is going to want the physical holographic component, that pyramid. Like some people might not just want to, they just don't want to deal with it.
Sure.
And some people are just not going to want to deal with like the quad split holographic format too. I get that. So on Opensea, there are static, like still images of the digital collage as well as motion works of the digital collage.
Are you focusing all of your energy into creating NFTs now, or are you also working on physical art that has no intention of being an NFT?
Right now, it's all NFTs all the time. Like, no joke. Yeah, like falling asleep in Twitter spaces.
And obviously that's because you enjoy it, but are you also seeing that there's just a crazy demand for this, a crazy demand for your art and a crazy demand for new NFTs?
I do enjoy it. I'm immersed in it, and because I love it. Like, I've never, for as long as I've done art, I've never seen the strength, the sheer power of like what you're able to achieve than in this space like this. It's totally different from the quote unquote traditional art world. And that's why I'm all in, like 150%. So like I haven't done much physical artwork, since COVID hit and I had to start selling off my equipment. I've done some paintings, which I've sold, like physical paintings, but I haven't really painted since September of last year, I think. I don't remember. And then, I build with Legos. That's kind of sculptural, so maybe that counts. But yeah, pretty much just all NFTs for me.
NFTs are exploding. It's all the buzz right now. It's everywhere. But because you're so immersed in it, can you talk a little bit about why you think this isn't a fad, this isn't a phase, that that NFTs and this kind of art and this space is here to stay?
Oh, for sure. I mean, whether we like to admit it or not, like we as humans, we live a lot of our days and our time online and in the digital realm in some form or fashion, whether it's Web 1, Web 2, however you want to do it. Like we are, constantly playing games, we're constantly on our phones, we're constantly buying things that are of digital nature anyway. But when you buy things of a digital nature that's not Web 3, you don't truly own it. So the beauty of Web 3 is that everything that you buy, your digital assets, as long as it's incorporated with Web 3, you will be able to own. And you'll be able to do with it what you wish. If you want to give it to somebody, you can give it to somebody because you own it. If you want to sell it, you can sell it because you own it. So what I think is crucial for like mainstream adoption to really understand is that because there is still a lot of like pushback with NFTs, even though in the NFT community, in the NFT bubble, it seems like there's mass adoption happening, and it is, but like outside of our bubble, like people don't quite get it. And I don't want to say we're early because, a lot of signals are saying we're kind of like,
I'll say it. We're definitely early. I think we're early. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
you
think
say.
it's perfect timing. It's perfect timing. I think I think we're like at the very bottom of the curve here, and it's great. I mean, it's where you kind of want to be.
For people that don't understand it, like, okay, as much as Facebook gets a lot of like flack, they are really people are going to be living a lot of their time like in the metaverse, and they're going to want to build their digital homes, their virtual homes, or whatever. They're going to need artwork on the walls of their virtual homes, and like for artists to like NFT artists need to understand that, like, as much as we dislike Facebook and Meta, like, that's going to be a huge door opening for artists to get their work onto the Meta platform. So that way, virtual houses all across the globe can get their artwork, on their Meta houses. I, for one, am more of like a DCL, Decentraland, and crypto voxels kind of girl, and I love my on cyber galleries. But I know that that's not going to be easy for everyone because the onboarding just takes too many steps. People, like the general public, want it quick, they want it fast, and they want it easy. And so the fewer steps that there are for them to get a virtual house, they're going to go that route. And if that means Facebook and Meta, that's the route that they're going to take. So artists need to understand that, sure, Facebook sucks, but like there is a huge opportunity there for artists. I just hope that people don't write it off.
Right. Well, even beyond Meta, though, I mean, you're doing something sort of different than almost every other NFT artist, which is trying to, as you said, bridge the gap between reality, real world material, and the metaverse, NFTs, digital, JPEGs. So what do you think what do you see for the future of that? How do you see for people who aren't interested in buying a mansion in Meta or real estate in Decentraland or traversing the matrix in this sense? Do you see other ways that the real world will be affected by this space?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the normies are going to start, being forced into this space, not from an artistic standpoint,
Gross.
but maybe from
Normies.
like a. I'm sorry, is that derogatory? I'm so sorry. No offense, normies. But
You're not welcome here, normies. You are
I
welcome
think
here.
over time, they're going to be forced into NFTs, whether they like it or not, and not from an artistic standpoint, like they're going to be forced into it with Web3's social media integration, or, documents like buying a car might be an NFT. The title might be NFT. A hospital paperwork might be NFTs. That's where this is leading.
Yeah.
And whether or not people feel comfortable about like buying a JPEG, that point will be moot. NFTs will be in their lives whether they want it or not. Will their lives be more fun if they have a JPEG? Heck yeah. But as far as
Right.
like NFTs go, like in some form or another, they're gonna be in their lives. Embrace the storm.
Yeah, I totally agree. Can you talk a little bit about the ownership part of NFTs? Because I think it does vary from NFT to NFT. For example, I have some Matrix NFTs. I don't believe I really own much with those NFTs. I think Warner Brothers or whoever the studio is basically owns most of that NFT, and I can sell it, I can trade it, but it's very specific, the kind of ownership I have, as opposed to I think Bored Apes. I believe they own the ape, and there are now Bored Ape music videos and Bored Ape cartoons with individual owners of those apes because they own the rights to exploit that artwork in any way they can. Another example is a DAO just bought. Was it an NFT? I guess it wasn't an NFT, but they just bought the Dune manuscript. Did you read about this?
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if that was an NFT or if that was a book, but I think what happened was that this DAO bought a very rare Dune manuscript, thinking that they own the rights to now make Dune movies and they own the rights to now do whatever they want, and they don't. They discovered afterwards they do not. The same way you don't own the rights to make a Mickey Mouse cartoon if you have a Mickey Mouse painting or a Mickey Mouse doll or something. So how are you transferring ownership with your art, and what are you seeing as far as ownership in general with NFTs?
Such a good question. And it varies because it depends on, each creator's intent. Like you had mentioned with Bored Apes, like 100% of the IP rights went to the collector. The current collector, not past. You have to currently hold an ape in your collection in order to capitalize off of it and create, other creations based off of that ape. So that I think was when that rolled out in April of last year. God, I remember being in those clubhouse rooms. We were all changing our profile pics and like in their rooms, talking like apes. Oh my God, they were so fun. I miss those clubhouse days. Early clubhouse. But there were like Bored Apes really revolutionized the game there because punks were popular before then, obviously, but they didn't come with IP rights. It was more of like a store of value, as well as like a collection flex, which I say that not to dismiss any of that because those are important in some way or another too. But the IP, like the commercialization of Bored Apes was huge, totally changed the game. As far as like DAOs buying physical works like the Dune manuscript and the even the Wu-Tang Clan album, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that they can, make copies of it because that's not what the creator intended. That wasn't part of the IP rights that the DAO has. It's cool that they own it, right? But it's great to know that piece of history is in the NFT community somehow. That's cool, but there's no way to capitalize off of it. So and not everything should have full IP rights. Like
Right.
some projects are great that have it, but not every project should. Like there's going to be there are going to be artists that do one of one works that they retain their IP because maybe they as an artist feel that the commercialization of their works goes against their whole ethos of being a fine artist. So it's not an end all or be all, and there isn't one great answer because it has to be approached with like the understanding of how complex it can be, and that all the answers are working. Now, for PFP traders or NFT traders that like to flip and have gains, which is totally fine too. That's part of the ecosystem. That's part of the market. For those that only want to invest in projects that offer the collector full IP rights, by all means, go for it. Seek out those projects and make your bag. Make your I almost said bird's nest. That's not the right euphemism. Make your
bird's nest.
make your cheese wheel.
That's what I'm going to use from now on.
Nest egg. That's what it is. Nest egg. Like make your nest egg. If that's what your ultimate goal is, like seek out those projects that give away full IP rights to the collector and do something with it. Like make sure the project that you create on the backbone of the IP project, make sure it's one that's gonna make you well off, I guess, or build value for your community if you want to look at it as a business long term. Like and then if you're not into that at all and you're just into for the art, maybe the IP doesn't really matter. So for my works, like at first I was like, when I first started in March of last year, wow, almost a year now, like I had that mindset of like this was before Bored Apes, right? Like March of last year. I had, done a lot of research, and I had heard that, NFTs, there's a lot of fraud, and people will just copy paste the photo and remint it somewhere else. Copy minting is what that's called. And I was very concerned about that. So I would mint, like in the description, like, copyright Rebecca Rose sculpturings, like on my early mints. And then I realized, you know what? Like, it's the provenance of it going back to the original creator's wallet address. It should, kind of clear the air as to who the original creator was. So I stopped
Right.
putting that on there. So like my early works have that line item at the very bottom of the description, and I'm not going to change it. I can't change it. It's minted on the blockchain. But the mints that I've been doing since the summer do not have that. So that's an example of like I said, things change. You got to learn to adapt and pivot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the second, for sure. How are you managing sort of traversing this landscape? Because one of the things I'm noticing, and I know it's being worked on, but it's so fragmented. There's so many different platforms. There's so many different blockchains. There's so many different communities, and it's great. I love that there are different kinds of spaces, but it's really difficult to get from one to another or transfer things from one to another. Has that been a difficulty for you at all, or do you find that you're mostly residing in one kind of platform or space, so it doesn't really matter?
I'm all over the place. Like not just with platforms on Ethereum, but NFTs on Solana and NFTs with Tezos. And there have been some NFT chains like Cardano and, oh gosh, what was the one that Coinvice was not Coinbase, but Coinvice. We were going to have,
sure.
Maybe that was Matic. Matic NFTs are good too, but yeah, I haven't really minted on Matic or Polygon because they have kind of a stigma attached that they're a little devalued because they're so easy to mint, and because people kind of like spam others' wallet addresses with these free airdrops and all that. So as far as they kind of are poo-pooed a little bit. So within the Ethereum ecosystem, my God, there's so much going on between like digital fashion and land and play to earn gaming and NFTs themselves, and then fractionalization of NFTs. If you were to fractionalize an NFT and then have people buy shares, well, I can't use the word shares because it's not a security, but portions of that NFT. Just aside from like being an artist trying to mint your own work and then, trying to follow all of these different conversations happening, it's all over the place. So the things I try to focus on is the communities that I've been involved with since those early clubhouse rooms of early last year, as well as other pillars of the community, as well as some communities that I've helped with curation as well, and then. But it seems like I'm focused, but there really is so much to focus on that I feel like I can't. I'm just constantly grasping for, to to make sure that the balls I'm juggling aren't falling to the ground. Yeah, they're like big ostrich eggs, and I've got slippery, soapy hands.
And
I'm
there's
trying to
75 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. With Solana, it's a really cool community that's starting, like it's burgeoning, and there are talks that Solana will be the Ethereum buster, like in years to come. So I'm very, very thankful that I started minting in 2021, the year that they started, because with as high as Ethereum gas fees are right now, if layer two, or I'm sorry, not layer two, if ETH2 doesn't roll out and drop those prices sooner than later, I think Solana is going to get a big chunk. People are going to move over.
Right.
Yeah.
Without a big budget, how do you do anything on Ethereum with these gas fees?
Oh my gosh, babies to sell or arms and legs to chop off to sell, maybe some kidneys. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's hard. When I first started out, like even minting on OpenSea, minting itself on OpenSea is free when you start, but when you list something, it costs, and that's when you have to, activate your MetaMask to OpenSea, and that's when they start charging you. So you could mint all you want, and it's on chain, but in order to sell it, for it to be traded, you do have to pay for that to happen. So, which is called lazy minting. So there's if you're on a bit of a budget and you definitely want to do Ethereum, I would suggest that lazy mint on OpenSea. Build up your fan base or your community or however you want to call it. Make sure your marketing is on point, and then invest the money that it's going to take to actually list it, so you can sell it and then use those proceeds to create new work and just let it grow from there. Now, if you're an artist with a little budget and you're like, it doesn't have to be on Ethereum. Tezos is a good chain, super cheap, super cheap. Tezos is really cheap to mint on, and that also has a pretty good collecting community too. And then, of course, Solana is super cheap as well. But they're not
Do,
viewed
do,
as cheap. That's the difference between like Polygon Matic and Tezos and Solana. Like Polygon Matic is kind of seen as cheap, but Tezos and Solana are seen as like respectable, but also affordable.
Sure. I like that. That's the Cliff Notes version of each of these chains. Going back to what you were saying about the shares and the securities and having that be an issue, I'm actually looking for some sort of finance person to come on this show and sort of explain that, because I think that's sort of unique to the US and it's an issue and it keeps coming up with almost everyone I'm talking about. Can you explain what that issue is?
That is a big issue, and regulators are taking note, because anytime that there is an asset that's promised to deliver value or to go up in value or whatever, it can be seen as a security. And if it is a security, then it has to fall under those regulations. But there are very few regulations and laws for NFTs, which is the beauty of decentralization. So it is a huge issue, which is why we have to be very careful about the words that we use, and not use words like shares or securities or anything that might sound like stocks, because that is not what we do. That is not what we don't want NFTs to fall down that rabbit hole of how stocks are treated. Some of the good finance people to talk to is going to be Deeze. He heads up fractional art, and I think he helped found it. And that's what they do. Like they fractionalize NFTs, like high level, high value NFTs. And then, people buy into it. And then if not promising that it does, but if it raises in value, then everybody sees a reward based off of that, their fractionalized cut. Well, I'm not going to say fractionalized share because that's not it, but fractionalized cut. And
Sure.
then it's also curious because when we do talk about decentralization, yeah, like you can make your own Web3 wallet and basically keep it as your bank account and be totally decentralized. However, the on-ramps and the off-ramps to those decentralized wallets are still governed by whatever country you create those in. So like if your
Right.
on-ramp is Coinbase, you remember doing a KYC, a know your customer for Coinbase? That's your on-ramp. That's what
Right.
is, that's still held, like you're still held to the same laws based off of those off and on ramps. Even though like
Sure.
the Web3 part of it is decentralized, so much of it in order to like either use those funds or, like on real world non-Web3 things, like it
Right.
requires off ramps. There are a lot of people that are considering moving to Portugal because, their crypto laws and their taxes on their crypto laws or crypto isn't as high. Same with, I think the Netherlands only taxes their crypto at like 1%, 1 or 2%, I think. There and US needs to really, really like consider the long game here because
Yeah.
if they overregulate, if they overtax, like people are going to leave the country because you might not need to live here if you can do the same, excuse my French, do the same shit elsewhere and get more rewards. So I think it's going to be interesting to find out what NFT specific laws that China unveils, because last week they announced that they will allow NFT trading within China, but that they're going to be writing specific laws pertaining to such. So I'm curious to see how that unfolds and how that, or if it will shape how the US sees it in the future.
All right. Well, to wrap up, for people who have been ignoring us for the last hour, give us your pitch for. We'll list all your links and everything, but just give us your pitch to people who are interested in getting to NFTs, interested in getting to art, should check out your work. What should they know?
Hi, everybody. Wake up. It's been an hour and we've been talking about rats and ghosts. Where have you been? So, welcome to NFTs. If this is your first time into the NFT sphere, welcome. We are a wild, degenerate, zany bunch, but we're also very friendly. So, we're excited to see what JPEGs you put as your profile picture, and excited to see which JPEGs you collect, as well as MP4s and PNGs. It doesn't have to be just, a static image. And we're excited to have you in this journey with us because it's changed a lot of our lives, and we hope it'll change yours too for the better. I'm Rebecca Rose, and I'm an NFT artist, and I've been minting in the space since early of last year, and I'm on SuperRare, KnownOrigin, Foundation, Opensea, and Curate for Maker's Place. Did I list them all? But you can find my work on those platforms, on the Ethereum chain, as well as on object.com with Tezos and Holoplex and exchange.art on the Solana chain. And I create digital collages that are a mixture of retro visions from the past meets sci-fi meets Willy Wonka wonderful, wonderful world of craziness, that also become holograms in your physical space. It's one way to bring the digi into the fizzy because our lives are going to encounter both of them. So why not bring one from the other and one to the other? It's a vice versa two-way street. But yes, please do check out my work. And if you feel so inclined, please add it to your collection. Thank you so much, Matt, for having me on today.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show. Your energy is infectious. Head to sculpturings.com as well. You forgot that one. Make sure that's sort of your central hub, right, to find you?
Yes, it's spelled SCULPTURINGS.com.
Awesome. We'll post those links. And thank you again. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, Matt.